Thanks everyone for attending yet our last advisory council meeting here, heading into our fall AGMs for the district. So thank you for all attending, and hoping to have share some information on what's been happening with KAP over the summer. And the speaker that we have today is from Arctic Gateway Group. Chris is joining us a little bit after 9 to discuss what's happening up in Churchill. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order at 9:03. Just a few housekeeping messages. Please ensure that you're on your screen. You've got your name and district or affiliation, just so that we know who is here at the meeting. We are recording, and we will have this available for anyone that hasn't been able to attend as well. And please ensure that you are muted, just so that we don't get feedback from the attendees that are here. If you wish to speak, you can simply raise your hand or put a message in the chat. I see a hand up already, Les Ferris from District 2. Before we get to there, Les, there was an agenda that was circulated, and at this time I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Love you, baby. That's fine. Bring back that tortilla.
I have, oh, sorry. So I have Les moving it, and then I have Chuck seconding it. Is that, are there any changes or additions to the agenda as it's been moved and seconded? You can simply raise your hand. Okay. I don't see anyone. I'm going through it. Staff, is there any hands up? Les, I have your hand is up. You have a question?
Well, that's such a big concern for all Western Canadians with this Arctic Gateway Group. I just hope there's adequate time for questions and with it. That was my only concern.
Okay, thank you, Les, and certainly if there are any other questions, this certainly leads to if we need other additional time spent in districts, we can certainly contact Chris, but I look forward to his presentation and any questions that might come out of it. Thanks, Les. With that, are there any opposed to the agenda that has been presented? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you. We also have the minutes of the last meeting, which was in July, circulated. Now ask for a motion to accept the minutes as circulated, please. Someone can raise their hand. A motion to accept the minutes from our July advisory council, please.
Jill, we have Christy Lane Carr moved, and I believe Michael Clark seconded.
Great, thank you for that. Any questions, errors, or omissions out of those minutes? I don't see any hands up, or is there anything in the chat, Colin?
Does not appear to.
Okay, I'll ask the question now. Are there any opposed to carrying that motion? All right, that is carried. So I guess I will roll right into remarks from myself over the last number of months. So thank you again for joining us today. We have an exciting agenda ahead of us, including updates on KAP activities, operations, and policy, as well as mentioned just previous. We do have a guest presentation from the Arctic Gateway Group on the Port of Churchill. So Chris is here to make a presentation. It continues to be a busy time for farmers right now in the fall, with fall weather conditions in some areas. We've occurred, a lot of moisture as we complete the harvest and prepare for 2026. The weight of mounting tariffs globally has many of us in the industry facing continued uncertainty and pressures. We are a resilient industry, incredibly adaptable, and most important, we support each other. Know that we are here for you. At KAP, we continue to raise the concerns of Manitoba farmers to government partners to ensure that our industry is at the table. There's been a great deal of activity since our last summer meeting, and I'll focus most recently on the last 6 weeks. In the month of September, I attended the North American and European Conference with CFA in Italy, focusing on the relationship building. Due to a last-minute speaker cancellation meant that I actually was called upon and spoke on a panel about resilience in agriculture. In October, KAP was part of the Canadian delegation to the Trinational Accord, which was October 16th to the 18th, which I attended with our policy manager, Neil. And I also was in attendance with our minister in Mexico City a couple days prior to that when we had conversations with the Mexican producer organization as well as the other ministers that were in attendance. Our discussions continue and are centered on continued trade with the U.S. and Mexico. The importance of CUSMA, bilateral agreements were also signed. 40 Canadian delegates, including our own federal minister, Heath MacDonald, Manitoba Ag Minister, Ron Kostyshin, Agriculture Minister from Alberta, Minister Sigerson, Minister Harrison from Saskatchewan was also there, as well as Minister Jones from Ontario. So the opportunity to build interprovincial relations also occurred during those meetings. The UN declared 2026 as International Year of the Woman Farmer. So I also had the opportunity to speak on a panel representing Canada about how to support the next generation of women farm leaders. I also attended CFA Lobby Days in Ottawa at the end of October, meeting over 40 individual MPs and representatives and staff with overall more positive tone towards agriculture as an economic driver. I also spoke before the Senate Agricultural Committee on forest fires and our experiences over the last summer with numerous fires here in Manitoba. The work on the Manitoba government's U.S. Trade Council continues, and the value of Canada-U.S. relationship under CUSMA and the need to keep domestic political issues separate from trade negotiations. Finally, KAP hosted Celebrate Manitoba on November the 5th alongside Manitoba Pork Council, Manitoba Canola Growers, and the Canadian Propane Association. This event brought together over 100 guests, including Manitoba ministers, MLAs from across the province, mayors, senior government officials, industry partners, and community members for an evening of connection and celebration. It was again held at the Canadian Museum of Human Rights, where we were able to show the power of collaboration and working together to advance the ag sector. It was a real success. So now I will turn things over to our General Manager, Colin Hornby, and he will provide the General Manager report. So Colin, go ahead.
Thanks, Jill. So you can hear me? Good.
Yes, it's great. Thanks. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. So we've been up to quite a bit here. Our team since I guess we had said in the summer or July was our last meeting. So just wanted to go through perhaps some of the key issues we've been working on and some of the meetings we've had, give some context, and then talk a little bit about some of the things we have moving forward. So I know Jill mentioned traveling down to the Trinational Agriculture Accord in Mexico So trade remains one of our top, if not the top issue that we've been active on. There's been some significant discussions around the table with the province, as Jill has mentioned, and we're looking to make sure that as we're upcoming to the review of CUSMA, that agriculture is at the top of the list and on the top of the minds of those individuals who are responsible for discussing with the U.S. and Mexico as that continues to go on. So we've been working with people at the provincial level, the national level as well, and in other countries, including the U.S., where we'll be traveling to New Orleans for the State Ag Rural Leaders Ag Chair Summit in January, something we did earlier this year as well. On the labor file, we are continuing to push ahead on a project we have with some other partners, which will look to create an online hub where we can attract individuals into agriculture, into some of the jobs that are most needed. So this will be to create an online platform and show those, it's called the Career Pathways Program, and we're looking at how do we demonstrate the pathway to different careers in agriculture, both on farm jobs as well as off farm, all throughout agriculture, throughout the value chain. Additionally, there's Neil will talk about perhaps a bit more in detail, but the Pest Management Regulatory Agency has put forward a proposed decision on the use of dicamba and canceling the use of dicamba for certain applications, which would be very impactful in Manitoba, specifically given the percentage of dicamba-resistant soybeans that are used. So we have been in discussions with the Canada Grains Council, of which we are a member, additionally with Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers and Manitoba Crop Alliance and the Canadian Federation of Agriculture on this issue. So Neil can provide some further information on that later on. Something we've really prioritized as well is continuing on with partnerships with other groups, not necessarily formal partnerships, but in some instances those would be. So the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, we've been in discussions with taking a more active role in helping to support some of the events they're putting on. This includes the Deputy Minister's Dinner, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, where KAP will be able to provide some remarks at the podium, and we will have some board members. So we'll have 4 board members and 2 staff members attending that dinner. We'll have the opportunity to sit with deputy ministers and talk about some of the key issues and identifying key files such as agriculture, environment, infrastructure, etc. Those some of those files that we really do a lot of work on. Additionally, World Trade Centers Winnipeg is a group that we have been having some discussions with, and we're meeting with some individuals coming up from Philadelphia as part of a delegation next week. The Leaders Forum is an event that we partnered with Manitoba Heavy Construction and 12 or 13 other of the advocacy groups in Manitoba, where the Premier spoke and released the economic development strategy. And this was an opportunity that to have an annual event where it rotates between provincial and municipal politicians to talk about, to give an opportunity to talk about the economy and what are some of the things they are going to put forward as solutions. And we wanted to make sure that agriculture was part of that discussion. So we were pleased to be the first agriculture group as part of that group. Jill mentioned, I know we talked about CUSMA a bit, so working again to make sure that we're being reflective of what are the needs of agriculture, and the province has been doing some proactive outreach with different groups to get things like our submissions and other stuff like that. Additionally, excuse me, we have started as of this with our year ending, where November 1st is our fiscal year. We've now rolled out the associate membership category. So this is something that's an opportunity for anybody who is, if you're a company or working in agriculture and you want to try and participate a bit more with KAP. This is something that was part of the bylaw changes that were made in January that just allowed some clarity so that we could make sure that we were able to do this. So we've had a few organizations already that have put forward applications to be an associate member, and we're pleased with that so far. So we should have a few other groups that are doing that. Additionally, we had since July, there's been some meetings that have been taking place. We did host Minister Heath MacDonald, the Federal Agriculture Minister, alongside Manitoba canola growers and a few other groups, Canadian Canola Council, and the Canadian Canola Growers Association at Herb Sigwell Farms in which is from our board member, Mr. Kevin Peters. And we hosted a round table to talk about the impact of canola tariffs and what were some things that perhaps the federal government could do, and to learn a little bit from them as well about what they were planning. Ultimately, we had seen in the federal budget that came out a week or two ago, or last week, sorry, that there were going to be some items in there around the advanced payments program, some amendments on biofuel policy, and some other stuff. Jill has had some discussions with the Premier through that U.S. Trade Council that she is a part of. So there's been some in-person meetings there. And Minister Costician, we've raised a few issues with him. So his office has been very open to taking meetings and talking to us when we need. We've met with Manitoba Transportation. I spoke at the Environment Committee in the House of Commons to talk about their study on emissions reduction, to check in on their plan, the emissions reduction plan. Jill mentioned she was at agriculture, and CFA lobby days took place as well. Additionally, Celebrate Manitoba did happen, and something I just wanted to highlight there was, at the end of the evening, there were some individuals already asking us, well, when are we going to know the date for next year? So I think that was a positive advocacy event that we were able to have. Additionally, in the summer, we did host the CFA Federal, Provincial, Territorial event that took place when the initial FPT meetings were to happen. However, those meetings were delayed due to the wildfires, but the tours still did take place. So we took delegates from across Canada to the Glenley Research Station, as well as Emily and Princess Auto. The Emily site located at Innovation Farms, and had some very positive interactions. And one comment that was made was from somebody from the Maritimes who talked about the Farm and Food Discovery Center at Glenley Research Station, and the power of that type of a model where we have academia, industry, and government all working together to promote agriculture to the public. So it was really a good opportunity to showcase Manitoba in that regard. I mentioned the roundtable we did. We also took part in a trade panel alongside some other individuals at the FPT table. So that was with all of the ag ministers from across Canada, spoke about agriculture priorities, specifically around trade. Additionally, there was to be a roundtable held this week with MP Grant Jackson and Senator Mary Jane McCallum. However, that's been postponed. So we're looking forward to participating in that. And another event that we attended was the Manitoba Agriculture Hall of Fame. Our former president, Mr. Campbell, Bill Campbell, was inducted into the Manitoba Agriculture Hall of Fame. So that was we were very happy to see that. It's a very nice way for us to honor Bill's memory, and that was a nice day that we had there. On the labor file, something else I wanted to highlight is our work on the veterinarian shortage in Manitoba continues to move forward. We're working with the province as part of the, excuse me, internationally educated veterinarian working group that we have. So we're at the table with Manitoba Beef, Association of Manitoba Municipalities, some other Manitoba Veterinary Medical Association, looking at solutions to try and alleviate some of the pressures that we have in the livestock sector on with the shortage of veterinarians. So that's all part of our labor task group that we had brought in a few years back, and we're looking to have a meeting again in the near future for the full group. Excuse me. Been doing some member presentations. I did do a presentation alongside Christy Lane Carr from our board at the Manitoba Egg Farmers producer meetings that took place in Winnipeg. I believe there was around 220, 230 individuals there. I see Lance and Harley are both online, so they were there when I presented. Manitoba Pork presented to their board, and CGA canola growers will be doing that in the next little while. So last thing, I just wanted to look forward. We do have the throne speech coming up, so that's from the provincial government will be outlining their priorities for the upcoming legislative session. So it'll be interesting to see what are some of those items that will be mentioned. We always look for agriculture in there. and Jill and I will be attending that. I believe it is next week. And the DM dinner we talked about, and some of those I've already mentioned. But yes, we'll also be at the AMM Fall Gala coming up in the next little bit. So engagement with municipal officials, that's always a great opportunity to have all of the municipal officials in one place and have some really good conversations. So that kind of covers sort of my update. I did also just want to add the fertilizer, the nutrient application deadline. There was a provincial variance in effect, so that was previously extended to the end of the 13th of November, but it's now been, or I guess the 14th. So anything up to November 14th, not including that date, it's been pushed back to the 16th of November. So I know the province is continually looking at this. So it appears there's going to be an extra couple of days for application of nutrients. Just wanted to add that. That's my update, Jill.
Great. Thanks, Colin. I'll just open the floor. We've got a couple minutes here before Chris joins us. Was there any questions on the meetings? David Rourke, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you for all that. As some of you know, I've just completed a PhD in search of net positive carbon grain farming, and I found that there's only a few really critical BMPs that are required for us to move the needle towards that net positive. And one in particular has to do with finding alternative nitrogen. And I've been able to communicate with Ag Canada in Lethbridge, where they've been working on a program to make nitrogen fixing non-legumes, which would be quite a game changer. I'm a little concerned that they don't have enough resources to really tackle this thing, because it's a global solution and it's also a GMO type of crop, so it's going to need deep pockets to get the regulatory done worldwide. I don't know if it's on many people's radar yet, but when I consider the 4 R's as being not a effective solution to get to net zero, and the amount of money that goes into that and the promotion of that versus what could and should be done on terms of end fixing non-legumes, it seems like it's misapplied policy. Just wondering if that's even on you guys' radar.
Yeah, David. So I know we talked about, I think you and I have spoken about this a little bit. So I've heard about this. I know we talked about this, I think, a month or so ago, but no, but it's something, I mean, I know you've spoken to AAFC about it. Have you spoken to the fertilizer industry at any point about this, or what have you, or any of the industry groups rather, I guess would be my question.
Not to the degree that needs to be done. I think that's my next set of priorities, is to make it a little more public, but or maybe a lot more. But I'm in the process of sending a letter to the various ministers, including the Prime Minister, which I know he has got a lot more important things to do than this right at the moment, but this could be important technology. And I think if we don't act on it, we'll lose that opportunity, or that advantage, founder's advantage in Canada. It will get eventually scooped up by other organizations, and we won't have that advantage to our own farmers and maybe in general to the Canadian agriculture industry.
Thanks, David. I'll just add, in our recent lobbying efforts through CFA, resources for innovation and funding through that program to promote production and other alternatives definitely was one of the key things that CFA was lobbying when we did our most recent lobbying efforts. So this definitely leads to an example of something that we certainly don't want to see fall through the cracks. So thank you for that example, David, and just to reassure that even given the change in the focus that was announced with the budget, research dollars and innovation definitely is something that is a concern with lobbying federally, and we'll continue to press to ensure that producers have the tools that they need, and whether that's additional end sources, whether that's programs like 4R. They all, like you said, there's no silver bullet, that we have to make sure that all of these things are kind of encompassed. So thank you for that comment, David. Any other questions for Colin on meetings that we've had in the last number of months, or what KAP has been up to? Okay, seeing no other questions. Leisha, I know we're waiting for Chris. He was in a meeting earlier this morning. Is he in the waiting room?
I see him logged on.
I'm here, Joe.
Awesome. Hi, Chris. Good morning.
How are you? Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you for attending. So I'll in that note, I'll hand it over to Chris Avery from Arctic Gateway Group, and I see your presentation up on the screen. So go ahead.
All right. I'm not actually sure which presentation was sent to you.
Oh, well,
I
maybe
may
it's
have-
just it's a picture. I don't know if you have a PowerPoint, or if you wanted to share something.
I have something I can share, but I'm
Perfect.
sure I can share it. Let me try this. Well, maybe as we're getting set up, I'll just start and say thank you for having me today. And it's we want to Arctic Gateway Group, the Port of Churchill, and the Hudson Bay Railway. We really want to continue to brief everyone, lots of stakeholders, particularly in KAP, on things that we're doing and what's going on more locally in terms of our operations, but also what's happening nationally, and talks of projects of national interest and how that impacts us and how it ultimately impacts all of you as well. Gosh, Arctic Gateway Group, I'll get into this a little bit more, but Arctic Gateway Group has been, I've been in the role for a little over a year now, and I sort of talk about the role being in two halves. The first half being the pre-Trump era, and then the second half being the post-Trump era. So in the first half, we talked about the Port of Churchill being a gateway to European markets, continuing to rebuild up the traffic through the Port of Churchill. And then the second half was the post-Trump era, where we found ourselves in a position where we are actually looked to as a potential major port in Canada in support of our national goals, which are to diversify trade away from the U.S., to help drive Canada forward as a global energy superpower, to assert our sovereignty in the North, and to advance Indigenous economic reconciliation. So those are all the things we were working on while pre-Trump, and then all of a sudden became sort of much more relevant post-Trump. So I wanted to, spend the moment here to update you guys on that. From a point of view of why the Port of Churchill, and why that's interesting to nationally now, and why you see us in the news, Arctic Gateway and the Port of Churchill in the news, is really the infrastructure and that we have in northern Manitoba. It's the benefits of it is on the slide here, but one of it is our Indigenous and community ownership. Not a joint venture or a partnership, but it's owned by Northern Manitoba communities and Indigenous nations. Second part is the town and the civic infrastructure in Churchill already exists. The civic infrastructure can support up to about, designed for about 5,000 people, and it's the population today is less than 1,000. So all the infrastructure there, from sewage to plumbing to housing and electricity and so on. The port is existing today. We already have a port. We have the grain elevator, as all of you know. We have the grain elevator there. We've been exporting. We've exported agricultural products to global markets for decades now. We're now exporting critical minerals to European markets. We continue to supply the Arctic and the Kavalik region. And so we have lots of products, or a growing amount of commodities going through the port already, although it is underutilized. So it's available there. And then the community also has an airport with a large airport with a 9,200-foot paved runway. So for those of you who don't really know runways per se, it's like 9,200-foot runway. It sort of allows almost any transport aircraft in the world to land there. So great set of infrastructure that way. And then the port, and then the rail link connecting to the port to the rest of North America with Hudson Bay Railway, and then CN really sort of connects it to the rest of the mainland. And then finally, the community itself has access to Manitoba clean hydroelectricity and fiber optics. So all this infrastructure, base infrastructure, is already there. In terms of our ownership model, it's a form of economic, Indigenous economic reconciliation that you don't see anywhere else in Canada, or frankly anywhere else in the world. Arctic Gateway Group itself owns and operates the Hudson Bay Railway, the Port of Churchill, and the Churchill Marine Tank Farm. We in turn are owned by an organization called One North, which is a partnership of 29 First Nations, and included in those First Nations is the Kavalik Inuit region, and then 12 Bayline Northern Manitoba communities. So, our ownership group really prioritizes Indigenous and Northern jobs for training and for development. They insist that we upkeep the infrastructures because the ownership depends on that infrastructure. So they won't allow us to neglect it like our previous American ownership. And then finally, ultimately, the economic returns go back to the communities and our ownership community. So the Port of Churchill itself is the only deep water Arctic port connected by land to the rest of Canada and North America. There are other deep water seaports in Canada and Iqaluit and other places, but none of them are connected by land. And it's connected by land by the Hudson Bay Railway, which we own and operate. And then from there, we connect to the CN network in the PA, which connects all through North America. And then we also own the Churchill Marine Tank Farm. And then as you saw earlier, there's the airport and the infrastructure. So this is a great set of trade enabling infrastructure that's albeit underutilized. And in the current geopolitical situation, that's why you've seen us in the news. That's why the Prime Minister has directed us to work with the Major Project Office to advance the development of the port to be part of our national solutions to diversify our trade. And the reason, this is a reason right here, is this is what we were saying pre-Trump, and it's what we're saying, and it's certainly much more applicable post-Trump, is that if you look on the map, it allows the vast resources we have in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, direct access to global markets in Europe and Africa, Middle East, South America, even Central America. So as we talk about diversifying our trade away from the US, these sea lanes have become even more important, and the port has become even more important. And then you also see the lines up north to the Kavalik region to central Nunavut. That connection to central Nunavut has traditionally been there. But since the railway washed out back in 2017 and the port has been neglected, that connection needs to be rebuilt as well. So really, from an update point of view, the railway is in probably the best shape it's ever been. Our track quality index is consistently high across all parts of the railway. We've reduced travel time on the railway by about 10% or 3 hours. And that's just because the rail line is in good condition. We're not asking trains to slow down as much. So railway is very, very much open for business. It's in good condition. We still need to do more work and put more investments into it. but it's in good condition. And then now we're turning our attention to the Port of Churchill. We've put more capital investments in the Port of Churchill this year, including fixing things that have been neglected for decades, like the wharf face and the wharf deck. We've also exported critical minerals from the Port of Churchill for 2 years straight now. So we have tripled the amount of bulk storage capability. So this is what you see here in the picture. We've tripled the amount of bulk storage capabilities that we have in Churchill as well. So really what we're doing is diversifying the commodities that we'll put through the Port of Churchill. The grain elevator is there. In fact, we've put a lot of work into the grain elevator, and it's very much ready for business. In fact, it was inspected recently, and I forgot the name of the agency, but it got a AAA rating, and what we were told, it's one of the cleanest grain elevators in the country from the inspectors. That despite the fact that it's been dormant for the past 5+ years. So very much ready for agricultural products. And then we've also invested in things like what you see on the slide here for bulk critical minerals and other minerals as well. So diversifying the trade, the commodities that can go through the Port of Churchill. And then we're also working with academia to really understand how long the sea lanes can be open for. The sea lanes right now are open for about 4 months of the year. University of Manitoba tells us that they can, without icebreakers, they can be open for about 6 months of the year already, given climate change. So they're working on that, and they have their findings out already, and it's going through peer review. So once we have that information, we'll share that with shippers, we'll share that with insurance companies to let them know. And the big impediment is really mostly insurance companies because they're working off decade-old data. So now they'll have more data to work from, given the impact of climate change. As an example, I mean, sample size of one, but I was up there last week. Actually, earlier this week on Monday, I was up in Churchill on Monday. I mean, all the sea lanes are wide open. And then last year at December 22nd at Christmas time, the meeting with the University of Manitoba, the sea lanes, they have it all plotted out in real time on the website. And the sea lanes on December 22nd was wide open from Churchill all the way up to the Hudson Strait and into the Atlantic Ocean. So that's a sample size of one, but you get the idea of what's happening with regards to climate change. And then we also work with other academia like the University of Calgary, Royal Military College, Laval, and so on. They specialize in working on permafrost and infrastructure, particularly infrastructure that has to go over permafrost. So, we work with them, and we use technology to really maintain the railway and make sure it's in good operating conditions. And frankly, using technology that wasn't available to us, decades ago, and in some cases with artificial intelligence, technology that wasn't even available to us 5 years ago. So lots of smart people working and helping us maintain the railway. So you may have heard in the news that the Port of Churchill Plus has been directed by the Prime Minister to work with the Major Project Office. Back in September, the Prime Minister announced 5 projects that were projects of national interest. So those 5 projects were actually projects that were very far along. They were things like LNG Canada Phase 2, Foran Mine, which was one of our customers, and we've been working with them. They're going to be in production by early part of next year. So lots of things, lots on that list already. That's pretty far along, including the Port of Montreal. And then there was a list of other 6 projects that was announced, that was directed, as I said, by the Prime Minister to work with the Major Project Office. So Port of Churchill Plus, as they called it, was part of that. And what that is what Port of Churchill Plus incorporates is really Class 1 railway standards, so really further upgrading the railway, getting year-round shipping from the Port of Churchill, having an energy corridor so that energy products can get to the Port of Churchill, and then finally an all-weather road to Churchill. And I'll cover some of those really quickly here in these slides. When we talk to our customers, agricultural companies, potash companies, others, what they tell us is that the rail lines that go to Vancouver, Montreal, and Thunder Bay can carry heavier rail cars than what goes to the north to Churchill. So those are investments that CN and CP made to the rail line back in the early 2000s, when the Hudson Bay Railway under American ownership was being neglected, and certainly those investments weren't being put in, let alone being upkept properly. But what that means is it allows, we need this upgrades to allow rail cars that carry a gross weight of 286,000 pounds per car. Our line allows cars that are weighted 268,000 pounds per car gross weight. So that's only a difference of about 7%, but that 7%, as you can imagine, with the agricultural companies, mining companies, and other companies, makes a big difference in terms of optimizing their logistics, their distribution logistics. So that's what the customers tell us. So a big part of Churchill Plus, Port of Churchill Plus, is really understanding what is required to upgrade the rail line so that the same cars that go to Vancouver can go to Churchill, and our customers don't have to make adjustments for the fact that they're using Churchill. The second piece is the Premier has asked the Prime Minister, and we've talked to the federal government as well, about ice breaking capacity to create year-round access to the Port of Churchill. Our customers talk about the rail cars, and they also say, we really need year-round or close to year-round access to the Port of Churchill. So potentially opportunities to use Canadian icebreakers to create a sea lane that's open on a year-round basis. We've also talked to private sector in Canada, and many of them are leaning in and believe it's a possibility. So as an example, we signed an MOU with FedNav, which is a Canadian company based in Montreal that has experience operating in northern ice conditions. And they believe that the Port of Churchill can be open on a year-round basis, and are leaning in with us to look at what the possibilities are to do that. And getting an energy corridor to Churchill, to be a major port in Canada and to support our national goals, we need our the number one export of Canada, access to Churchill and tidewater at Churchill. So part of Port of Churchill Plus is our potential energy corridors that are pre-approved. So these are corridors that are pre-approved from Western provinces to Churchill. And once they're pre-approved, it allows private sectors to feel confident in building things that facilitate the movement of natural gas, pipelines that facilitate the movement of natural gas, or power lines for hydroelectricity, hydrogen, or other forms of energy. So that's what the energy corridor is about. It provides greater confidence to private sector and the energy companies. And what that potentially translates into is billions of dollars of investment into Manitoba and northern Manitoba, and thousands of jobs in terms of the construction, but also the ongoing operations of potentially energy products through the Port of Churchill, like LNG. So we're working very closely alongside the province of Manitoba and the major project office on that. And then finally, it's, all weather roads would allow access for other modes of transportation to access Churchill for transportation, for industry and community use. It would certainly improve access for northern Manitoba northern Manitoba communities. But this goes hand in hand with the energy corridor because building roads is expensive and maintaining roads are expensive. And so if you can imagine that private sector is investing billions of dollars on potentially pipelines and energy processing facilities, terminals, then it makes all-weather roads become more of a possibility as you're sharing that cost with private sector. And then finally, we know that Canada is going to increase its defense spending up to 5% of GDP. We believe a lot of that will go up in the north to increase our presence. So a lot of that investment can be used for multi-use facilities, so for industry and also for defense. In our conversations with the Department of Defense and Canadian Armed Forces, they tell us that, Churchill is a great supply point, a northern operating supply hub for the northern military stations. So great opportunity for a location for a naval base, Coast Guard station, ice-breaking fleet, or something of that sort. Also with the airport where it is and the infrastructure we have around the airport and the lands that we have around the airport, that infrastructure can be used by the Air Force for reconnaissance, for drones, for other applications, military applications. And that would further increase the capabilities and infrastructure up in the north, in northern Manitoba. So really that's it. It's really that's what we're hearing today in terms of that's why you hear about the port being a port of national interest. And those are the things, those are the components of it when you hear about the Port of Churchill Plus. And then now pulling all that back, pulling all that back to where we are today is, you know, the big reason for this conversation too is, the Port of Churchill and the Hudson Bay Railway is very much open for business now. We have all the infrastructure. We have the rail access to the port. We have the grain elevator ready to go in Churchill, and we have the port undergoing additional investments for it to be ready to export commodities around the world. So I guess maybe the ask here is we have a once in a generational opportunity to build up the Port of Churchill for a wide range of commodities, but the core product, the core backbone of Churchill has been, and we expect will be in the future, will continue to be agricultural products, and particularly agricultural products produced right here in Manitoba as well. So that's the update on the port. We've got the grain elevator ready this season. We're fully ready to accept shipments and products for next season now. And so that's the purpose of this is really just to share information and hope that you can share the story with people you talk to and then certainly your partners to encourage them to use the Port of Churchill. And with that, Jill, I'll stop rambling.
Oh, great.
See what
And
questions
I'm
you
sure we'll have some questions here from the individuals that are watching. Great news with the recent addition to the national projects, and certainly very positive to hear there with the recent inspection of the grain handling facilities as well, as to that was one of the certainly the concerns or questions that I would have had visiting a year ago now, last summer. So great positive news. Les Ferris, you have a question?
Yes, I worked on the pipeline for quite a few years, and I'm curious with the ownership of a natural gas line that you would put into Churchill. I'm referring, I guess, as an example, the Coastal Gas Link that TransCanada Energy or TC Energy owns. And would this be private, or would your group own the pipeline as well?
No, the pipeline itself, we believe needs to be private sector. You know, yeah, as you know, it's a lot of money. It's in the billions, and we want to provide the opportunities to say, you know, this is an opportunity for private sector to invest in pipelines, whether it's TC Energy or someone else, and then private sector to invest in terminal facilities, say for natural gas. So lots of work still needs to be done. It's really early stages. I would say the province is very involved in that. So potentially partnerships with the province. Certainly, Arctic Gateway Group with our Indigenous and Northern community ownership could potentially be a partner in that because these all major projects, you know, many major projects you see in Canada now have Indigenous partnerships. So Arctic Gateway could potentially be that partnership as well. So if you look at, you know, out west towards Cedar LNG, for example, it's a partnership between Pembina and then also the Haisla Nation, amongst others. So I think that's kind of in my mind the future. Lots of people have to step forward and put that together, and lots of things to be done still. But in the meantime, we're very much focused on agriculture, the things that we can do today, which is agricultural products, critical minerals, potash, Northern Arctic supplies.
I wondered if you could clarify the tank farm was mentioned, and is that for, have you got oil coming in tanker cars and loaded out of that tank farm, or is that tank farm for another use?
Yeah, I don't want to spread any rumors about oil going up to Churchill. I'll probably cause a storm. I think, you know, if I think about the tank farm, I think about there's a lot of land there, and there were much significantly larger tanks that were there. They've been since been decommissioned, and the land's properly cleaned and remediated. And so we do have a smaller tank farm there that really supports the airport, the communities, and so on. But the land in that the land in is available there, and it's set up for that. So the things that we're talking to people about are potentially in industries, say in the north, in the Arctic, in the Kavalik region, and potentially investing back in the tank farm there to supply diesel or aviation fuel or anything else to the northern regions. And traditionally, Manitoba has been the place that supplies the northern regions, but now it all comes through from Montreal. So you can imagine it's a little longer from Montreal, and if you run out, it's a longer trip also to get more. So it's a natural supply, you know. Churchill and northern Manitoba is a natural supply point for central Nunavut.
Well, thank you very much for clarifying that.
Thanks, Les.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I just had a quick question on time frame for like, I know newly announced, looking at, you know, that Port of Churchill Plus. But the first thing that you kind of mentioned there was, you know, upgrading or becoming that Class 1 rail standards. I think, I don't even know if you can answer this, but time frame or resources, or where you as an organization are looking towards, because you do own the rail, as far as what you feel time frame wise to upgrade would be, and I would assume you'd be looking. Are you looking for partners or additional investment in that area, or what have you been talking about around your table?
Good question. It's, you know, Port of Churchill Plus has all four of those uh, components as we talked about, and they're all kind of slightly different, so different timelines for that. But as you noted, Jill, the rail line itself is already there, right? So, and we hear the Prime Minister and the government talking about we need to move quickly. We need to move fast and with urgency and with determination. So that's been our approach in thinking about this. So we need to work with the major project office. And with regards to the rail line, our expectations is that, you know, in a 6 month period, we can quickly engage proper engineering support to really understand what is required specifically in detail to upgrade the rail line, but also work with CN to upgrade the CN part of the rail line, because if the HBR part of the rail line is upgraded, but CN is not, it doesn't really help us. So working with them on that. And then beyond that, you know, we don't expect the environmental impact assessments or consultation to be as onerous because the railway already exists. So with that support for the engineering studies, we could be starting the process of upgrading the rail line as quickly as, in my mind, within 6 months. And then, of course, the work to do that and keep the railway running. And then northern Manitoba conditions, it may take, you know, years, a couple of years at least to do that upgrade. But CN and CP did it, you know, back in early 2000s, right? So it can be done. So I think that's probably the upgrade of the rail line is the shortest pole in the stack, so to speak.
Great. So I have 3 hands up. We'll go to Michael Clark first from Manitoba Beekeepers, then Chuck Fosse, and then Glenn Young. So go ahead, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Sorry, I was muted. Thanks for coming. It's really interesting. Just wondering if you have also considered with your plus to maybe get government more on board with the increase in data centers. Wouldn't Churchill also be probably the best suited with clean power and colder climate to capitalize on the exploding need of those as well? And then second part of the question, I'm just wondering, do you have a dollar figure on like total cost of what you think it would do to upgrade all infrastructure in the Churchill Plus?
Right. The data centers is a great concept. You know, as you said, it's all the things you already said. It's colder up there, so the power generation is not as needed. We have access, Churchill already has access to Manitoba. It's already connected to the Manitoba hydro grid, so lots of opportunities there. So it is something that we could do in partnership with other companies, Arctic Gateway Group. So it is on our radar. We're not, you know, we're not the ones who necessarily build the data centers, although we could be, but we need to find partners to do that. But yes, it is very much on the list. I wouldn't say it's necessarily part of Churchill, Port of Churchill Plus, but you're right, it could be, because the power, it's all interrelated, right? It's the power needs of, you know, we would need a lot more power from Manitoba with data centers. And then potentially there's also a proposal for the Kavalik hydro fiber link that links Manitoba Hydro to the Kavalik region to provide them with clean electricity and fiber optics connectivity. And that line could potentially stop in, you know, be connected to Churchill as well to further increase electricity in the region to support data centers. So yeah, it's very much a possibility. In terms of the costs, we don't know. There's obviously a significant amount of costs in terms of the railway upgrades, creating a sea lane on a year-round basis. Roads would be quite expensive, but I would, you know, maybe I'd characterize that as saying they are in the hundreds of millions of dollars of investments, some of which we believe needs to come from the government, its infrastructure, its national infrastructure. But that initial investment by the government will potentially unlock billions of dollars of private sector money. So the example was a road for the province to build on its own is quite cost prohibitive. But if private sector is building pipelines and other infrastructure, then building a road alongside that would be far more economical.
Great.
So awesome.
Next one, Chuck.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation, Chris. Just wondering, I know the province of Manitoba has in the past contributed quite a bit of money for that rail infrastructure. And I'm just wondering, because historically, much of the grain that went through Churchill came out of eastern Saskatchewan, if the province of Saskatchewan is also helping to fund some of this infrastructure work or other ways that they are contributing to your project.
No, that's a good question. Most of the funding itself, from a funding perspective, the government of Canada supports the railway. It's just how it works politically in the government. The government of Canada supports the railway and the port, and then the province contribution is really towards the port, not the railway. So that's really how the dollars are accounted for and allocated. Um, but your question still stands, which is with regards to Saskatchewan. Um, we've not had that specific conversation, although we did sign an MOU with the province of Saskatchewan and with in partnership with Manitoba government to increase trade through the Port of Churchill, from Saskatchewan through the Port of Churchill. So, we're really leaning on them to help move their commodities through Churchill, whether it's agricultural products or potash that's required for growing of agricultural products around the world, through the Port of Churchill. But we haven't had the funding discussion yet. But perhaps they might say some of that would be coming from the federal government too.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Glenn Young.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Chris.
Okay.
Excuse me. That was an excellent presentation. I really did enjoy it. It's something I think a lot of us have been thinking about and wondering where and when things might happen. So along that line, I was wondering, in all the items that you mentioned, all the directions that you have for different projects to do with the Port of Churchill, in KAP's lobbying efforts with the provincial government and the federal government, do you have any particular first choice in where a lobbying effort could or perhaps should be made? I'm thinking the federal government is coming out. I think the Prime Minister is going to talk perhaps shortly after Grey Cup about 4 or 5 more major projects, and I'm certainly hoping that Churchill is included in that. But I just wondered if there was anything in particular that you thought that KAP could focus on? Thanks.
That's a really good question. I think maybe it's twofold. Is one is when we were announced as essentially I think they called it a transformative uh, project. So transformative being something that can really support our national goals. That's how it was described by Canada. That was back in September. In the meantime, the major project office is just now standing up. So we've only had one meeting with the major project office, and the province has had a couple. I expect them to move really fast, but it's kind of the storm, the calm before the storm, so to speak. I expect them to move really fast, and they will move very fast. But right now, it's been a little slow. So I guess when the Prime Minister said he would make an announcement before Grey Cup, what we told our board was like, we want to temper expectations, because if the Prime Minister announces, because he's already announced, directed us to work with the major project office, so he isn't going to take that back. If the Prime Minister at that time announces something about the Port of Churchill as a project of national interest, that's great. But frankly, the work that we're going to do doesn't change at all. But then if the Prime Minister doesn't say anything about the Port of Churchill, the media will grab onto that and say, "Well, what's happening? There's a problem. Uh, Port of Churchill isn't relevant anymore," and that's absolutely not true, because our work continues to be the same, because they aren't going to put the genie back in the bottle. We're going to continue to work with the major project office, and that's what they told us in Ottawa when we were lobbying there. So I guess from a KAP perspective, one is from all of you, uh, when we don't know what the Prime Minister will say, But all that to say is, it's good that you have the knowledge so that when you see whatever the Prime Minister says, it really, doesn't change the direction and the ambitions and the opportunities we have at the Port of Churchill. And the government feels the same way. And then from a lobbying perspective, I'd love to see KAP sort of talk to industry partners and government, provincial and federal governments about the opportunities to move your products through the Port of Churchill. I think I always say the status quo has a huge gravitational pull, and people, it's hard to pull people away from what they have always done or more recently traditionally have done. But you can see that this opportunity in Churchill isn't going to go away. We're going to have Manitoba is going to be a maritime province. It is going to have this active port with a mix of commodities, and we really want to see KAP products go through the port. So love to see you advocate for that with partners, with government, federal and provincial, and anyone else in between.
Great. Thanks for that, Chris. And then Harold froze.
Thanks, Jill. Chris, I really appreciated your presentation, especially some of the opening comments where you talked about Indigenous reconciliation. And I think if I heard you right, you said this is the biggest reconciliation project potentially in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that really excites me that finally we're finding something that will move reconciliation forward. I don't really have a question, more of a comment. And I'm really dating myself with this, but 30 years ago, some of us dreamt about what you're talking about now. That was when the crow was being taken away from Western Canada. And the ag minister at the time, Glenn Findlay, together with a group of about 8 or 10 of us at KAP, empowered us to do a research study on what we thought agriculture would look like after the loss of the crow. And two things came out. One was diversification into more special crops and livestock in Manitoba and eastern prairies, and which is, as everybody on the call knows, has really happened. And the other thing was the potential of Churchill. And the biggest drawback at that time, and I'm so pleased your comments and all the questions about the railway, was how do we get fully loaded grain cars to Churchill in an efficient time, given all the muskeg, et cetera, that we have to cross. And it sounds like your technology is well on the way to that. So thank you very much. And I just want to encourage you to keep on going. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. It's
Great.
the history. It's always so useful. It was a strategic asset for us in almost 100 years ago, and it's a strategic asset for us now. So it's great to be a part of that.
Great. Thanks for that comment, Harold. And there was one question quickly in the chat, Chris. I'm just conscious of your time and meetings today. I'm sure there's lots of other questions, so I'm hoping to continue this conversation and feedback and your progress, what's happening up in Churchill. The last question actually was from Jeff and his question was, you'd mentioned development of new commodity storage facilities at the port. I was just wondering if you wanted to elaborate as to, is there additional facilities in the plans or happening since I guess we were up there over a year ago, and that's when that additional bulk facility was constructed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we are planning more facilities, and this year we've tripled that amount, so we have more bulk storage capacity that you saw there, Jill. So more of that, and that's capable of handling critical minerals. We have a partnership with Padcom, the potash mine in Manitoba, and that can be shipped as a bulk material as well. So lots of things going on there. In terms of what we have planned going forward, it's a bit of a it is everything is evolving. So a couple of things, I'll give you some examples. It's one we're working on the foundational, the wharf face and the wharf deck. So we're investing money in that. So, but we're still keeping business, shipping commodities. So it's akin to, having working on the foundation of your house and having house guests at the same time. It's so all that's going on. And then the second piece is just trying to determine exactly what the requirements are. So we're in discussions with, say, as an example, potash producers in Saskatchewan who produce a red potash, which requires different terminal capacity to handle it. So do we build for them? Uh, we don't know what Department of Defense needs, so potentially they may need other capacity. And then, of course, we already have the grain elevator there, so that's a great set of assets. But do we scale that back because there'll be less agricultural products? So lots of moving parts still, but we're watching it very closely and investing, hopefully investing as wisely as possible.
Great. Thanks for that. And thank you again for your presentation. I don't see any other questions, but certainly if anyone has any questions that would like to be forwarded to yourself, Chris, just you can either contact the KAP office directly, but definitely it's something that we have been actively involved in. It's kind of perfect timing from our first traveling up with the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce now a year and a half ago to see what was happening, to see the progress. My involvement with the Premier's Business and Job Council, as alluded to, this was one of the priorities that were brought forward and carried forward to our own Premier. And now I think with the current situation with trade and really looking at that opportunity that is right there for us to use, and certainly for Manitoba producers to be able to take advantage of that, the province to take advantage of that, and to, of course, partner with, our neighbors to the west, who, there's some significant opportunities there to attract that investment that is going to be needed there. This is a long-term, plan, but definitely to keep the foot on the gas, and certainly in our role in advocating and lobbying, really continuing to question and to ensure that the government continues, and that we can see these opportunities actually occur in the next number of years. So thank you again for your presentation. And with that, we will go on to the next agenda item. But thanks, Chris, for attending our meeting this morning.
Excellent. Thanks, Jill, and thank you to everyone for advocating for us and supporting us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Have
Thanks.
a great meeting.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to turn the attention to Leisha and Neil, who will provide policy update as well as communications report. So I'll hand it over to, I guess we got policy first, so I'll hand it over to Neil. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Yeah, as Jill said, my name is Neil Van Overloop. I'm the policy manager at KAP. I'm going to give everyone a brief overview of some of the things that we've been working on in the last few months. So the provincial government announced a consultation called Roadmap to Net Zero. We provided comments to government regarding this consultation, as well as participated in an in-person session about this strategy. Our comments highlighted the challenges and opportunities with reducing GHG emissions. A few weeks ago, government released its roadmap with the action plan coming in the next few months. The Department of Agriculture consulted with stakeholders about a digital agricultural strategy. Our comments focused on collaboration, funding, data governance, regulation, reporting, rural connectivity, as well as the right to repair. We anticipate the province to release this strategy in the coming months. Earlier in this summer, the federal government released or passed the Free Trade and Labor Mobility in Canada Act. This act has an aim to reduce internal trade barriers between the provinces, We provided comments to government. We emphasized that any regulatory changes do not affect Canada's international trading relationships. We anticipate that the regulations will come out sometime next year to provide more specifics on what's permissible regarding the Act. A few months ago, the Riding Mountain Biosphere Reserve contacted the office. They wanted feedback regarding the Riding Mountain National Biosphere Reserve because they're undergoing a periodic UNESCO review, given that significant farmland acres surround Riding Mountain National Park. We provided comments to the organization. Our comments emphasized adequate incentives, as well as the importance of collaborating with stakeholders in the region. Plant breeders' rights, the CFIA provided a consultation last year on changes to the regulations. This year, the CFIA posted these proposed changes in the Canada Gazette. We support these proposed changes as they already reflect what is currently being done in agriculture. Also with the CFIA, they're doing a multi-year consultation regarding the seeds regulations. We've provided comments to the CFIA over the last few years regarding these consultations. They recently provided stakeholders with another consultation with many proposed changes. We've been working with commodity groups, specifically the Canadian Sea Growers Association, and provided comments to the CFIA. We anticipate further changes or further comments to be posted by the CFIA in 2026. As Jill talked about earlier, we were in Moriela, Mexico for the Trinational Agricultural Accord. This was an important conference to talk to stakeholders with Canada, America, and Mexico about the importance of trinational trade, as well as challenges and ways to overcome these challenges. So this is certainly relevant given that the CUSMA consultation will be occurring in 2026. Global Affairs had a consultation session about CUSMA. We provided comments to the department, emphasizing the importance of trinational accord, as well as some suggestions on ways to improve trade between the three countries. And lastly, as Colin mentioned, the PMRA issued a special review of dicamba. This review extends till the middle of December. This special review affects, or they're proposing changes to dicamba that would affect the product's use, spray drift buffer zones, as well as risk mitigation measures. The PMRA released the data evaluation records to companies, and this will provide further insight on how this proposed change will affect producers across Canada. So we'll be submitting comments before the December deadline. So if there's any questions regarding this update, I'm happy to answer any.
Thanks, Neil. I'm just perusing the screens here to see if anyone has any questions. Alicia, is there any questions that have come up in the chat? I don't see any hands up.
Yeah, nothing in the chat either.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Sorry.
I had do you have a link, Neil, to the data that's they're providing on that dicamba review somewhere? Can you throw that up in the chat or something?
That would be internal. I would have to reach out to some organizations for that, but I could send you if I receive anything.
That would be good, Neil. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will hand it over to Leisha.
Thanks so much, Jill. Hi, everyone. Leisha Hassan-Ali, Manager of Communications and Stakeholder Relations here at KAP. Definitely, as you've heard from other folks, it's been a busy few months here. I'll just take an opportunity to give you a brief overview. This summer, had the opportunity to attend Midwestern Legislative Conference. This was in Saskatoon at the end of July, and this is an annual event, and the audiences encompass provincial and state legislatures from our Midwest Canadian and American regions. So it was a really wonderful opportunity to connect with folks at the state and state Senate and legislative levels, and hear from folks in North Dakota and Illinois. A great deal of conversation around agriculture and trade. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper was one of the keynote fireside chats. Also heard from Scott Moe up on the podium. And of course, he talked a lot about food and fertilizer as a key GDP product coming from Saskatchewan. It was a good opportunity for Saskatchewan to really promote themselves at this crucial time. But we got a lot of Manitoba presence as well. I was joined by a number of MLAs from our province, including Minister Kostyshin, who was also there. Good conversations with Senators Tracy Mugley as well as Todd Lewis and Consul General Beth Richardson. So a great deal of recognition of the importance of working relationships across Canada and the US. Next year, this conference is going to be in Bloomington, Minnesota. So there is another opportunity to continue to engage with this group. Also had a wonderful opportunity because the Canadian Farm Writers Conference was in Winnipeg for myself and my colleague Emily Davidson to attend. Heard from a lot of local writers as well as folks from Ontario and BC. We even had folks as far as the East Coast come. They had an opportunity to go on a bison ranch tour, also Love Day mushroom farms, a real chance to promote our industry and continue to build relationships with media that represent our stories. Locally, the canola folks had a really great contingent out, and I was actually on a tour that they organized, so was able to finally firsthand see some canola getting crushed. So that was a real privilege for me as well. In October, I attended the white coat ceremony at the Western College of Veterinary Medicine, and this was organized through the Manitoba government. And this was a first sort of initiative for them that they hope to continue annually, where we attended the white coat ceremony, had a tour of the college, and then also hosted a Manitoba reception. And this was open to all Manitoba seats. So students that were in the Manitoba seats from all years to come engage with industry. I was there on behalf of KAP. We also had Manitoba Pork was there. The chief veterinary officer was also there. And other industry veterinarians to talk about opportunities, hear from students firsthand, really encourage them to continue their rotations and further their careers in Manitoba. A lot of these folks, particularly some of them in large medicine or looking at equine medicine, do go off to do their further residencies and fellowships in other provinces. And so this was an opportunity to really hear firsthand what students were going through and what it would take to have them come back to Manitoba. A lot of this group was interested in small animal care, but we continue to advocate for large animal medicine. It was also a good opportunity to hear from the dean as well as the GR folks there. So we continue, as Colin mentioned, to work on that internationally educated vet file. As you know, it is the Western College of Veterinary Medicine that does the exams and the testing to get foreign educated vets trained, certified and licensed here for Manitoba and Canada as well. Next week is the Young Farmer Summit that AgX put on by Farm Management Canada as well as Farm Credit Canada. We are a presenting sponsor, and so Few of us will be there on Monday as well as Tuesday. Jill is presenting on Wednesday on a panel as well as Jake Ayer. He's also going to be presenting on Wednesday. There's still time to register if folks want to come. There is a young farmer discount. We continue to engage around this group, and there is a young farmer roundtable that's really going to dig into some of these issues on Monday. We're also doing some sponsorships through the post-secondary educational institutions here in Manitoba, working closely also with 4-H Manitoba around engaging young farmers as well as younger folks in rural areas to get them continue to interested in agriculture and agricultural careers. Part of this also leans into some of the work around the career pathways portal that was mentioned earlier. And looking ahead, I want to ensure that folks know that KAP will be at Ag Days in January. This is taking place in Brandon. We're going to have 2 booths. So January 20th, 22nd, please do come say hi. We're going to have a KAP booth as well as a Farm Safe Manitoba booth. Farm Safe Manitoba booth, we're working on a new booth that's going to be interactive with some hopefully some fun games for kids and folks of all ages to play. So definitely do come check us out. And please do register for our KAP AGM, which is on February 3rd. It's going to be same model as last year, where on the 2nd, we're going to have a welcome reception. The meetings are then going to take place on February 3rd. All of this is happening at the Delta Hotel. And we have an exciting agenda in the works. Happy to answer any questions that folks may have as well.
Thank you very much, Leisha and Neil. I'm checking to see if there's any hands up for questions for you. I guess I'll take an opportunity at this time too to add to that list of events, which would be your district AGMs, which are now with the first one being this Thursday in District 5. And it is in Selkirk, so I will be attending that, as well as from the office. Shona from members will be there as well. We've got the meetings up on the screen there, so certainly mark your calendar for your district to attend, and hoping to see all of you. Try to attend as many as I can with the schedule that's out there, but certainly mark your calendar to attend here with the first one in District 5 tomorrow. So I'll be attending that one. Any other questions from the group? All right, having seen there's no questions. Resolution request was sent out to the districts, and there were no resolutions from districts sent in. So I kind of just opening the floor here. Certainly seeing no late resolutions, we will conclude that portion of the agenda, and we can roll right into cross-provincial update from our members online here. I will start with the member associations or commodity groups. I'll get individuals from the commodity groups to just raise their hands on the screen here. Is there anyone from Manitoba Egg Farmers to provide an update?
Yeah, I can, Jill.
Thank you. Thanks, Harley. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us on and the great presentations we heard here this morning. As a lot of you have heard, HPAI, high path avian influenza, is of main concern for us here in Manitoba for all the feather commodities. There are 5 confirmed cases right now between quite a different spectrum of species throughout. A lot of them are around the Blumenort Niverville area and a couple up north. So that is on high alert for us farmers. We've been fairly lucky in the past 2.5 weeks. There's been no more confirmed cases. So we're hoping with the cold weather that we had last week, the birds kept on going south, which will help. And now with the warm weather this week, I still don't see too many birds around. So hopefully we've seen the worst of it. But across Canada, especially in BC, it's starting to come up again. So that's always a worry for us to kind of meet our egg supply. Right now, egg supply is really high. They're needing a lot of eggs, but we're also starting to get some eggs in storage as the United States is starting to repopulate a lot of their flocks that were out due to AI as well. So it's an ever-changing system. And we have to keep on the ball with that because we want to ensure the correct amount of supply for Canadians and Manitobans. To note, maybe some of you have entered into our laying hen draw. That is being drawn this Friday for 2 new winners of 6,000 birds quota each. So it's always a fun time to welcome in new farmers into our industry and to, continue growing. I guess our last update would be is some of you have seen and heard we're doing a lot of renovations with a lot of farms, with the conventional caging having to be phased out by 2036 and the amount of space being phased out in 2031. A lot of farms are building brand new barns, and the change over to free run systems is definitely growing. That need is getting higher and higher, being told by us, by the people who are buying our eggs, the grading stations. So a lot of moving parts in our industry, but egg sales are up on the rise. So not too much to complain about. So that sums up my quick report. If there's any questions.
Thanks for that, Harley. Go to for Manitoba Dairy Producers.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to give you a quick update about what's going on in dairy. Interesting, we're tied a little bit together on this issue with egg farmers. Obviously, HPAI is a concern in the States where it's been affecting dairy herds. So that's something we're definitely kind of keeping an eye on, seeing how things are going, because obviously the area where HPAI has been found, there is a lot of dairy farms in that area as well. So just kind of keeping an eye on things. On the other disease front, we've had some issues with one farm testing positive for TB earlier on. So CFIA has been involved in that, and there's been a lot of extensive testing on that particular herd and trace in and trace out herds. And so far, with all the testing that's been done, there is only that one animal that was tested positive. So that's good news that it doesn't seem like there has been any spread anywhere else. But we're continuing to do a bit more testing on herds that are in proximity distance-wise. So we're continuing to monitor that. Neil had kind of talked a little bit about CUSMA reviews coming up in 2026. So we're also looking at that in terms of the dairy side. So there is consultations that are open, and we're wanting people to have their voices being heard about, in particular, dairy and how we want things to roll out that way in terms of a review. So there is a website, ourcountryourmilk.ca, that we're asking people to go check in and just provide their comments to provide to the government in terms of the upcoming review in 2026. Aside from that, I think most people in terms of silage for dairy farms were able to get their silage done before all the rain started happening. So I think in terms of that harvest has gone well. But obviously people that are doing, have grain in their operations have seen some challenges, as many of you know. So yeah, that's a quick update on the dairy side.
Great. Thanks, Christy Lane. Manitoba Beef Producers.
Say bees or beef?
Bees, Michael, that would be you. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Jill. Okay, yeah, so it was a challenging year. As I spoke before, we had a higher winter loss again. So honey production is down across the province. Colonies are looking strong going into winter, though. We do have some concerns as the 4-year average is at 42%, but yet we're still seeing honey prices continually lower every single season. So that's putting added pressure on beekeepers to be profitable. As well as another main concern for our industry is with CFIA. We had some import packages coming to Canada that did not meet the standards for importing. And so we're concerned that CFIA is not doing their due diligence with outside Canadian packages, as well as there is a new parasitic mite traveling across other parts of the world. And if we are getting packages in Canada that have mites known, what are they doing to stop this new parasitic mite from getting here, which would basically potentially end the industry in Canada. So that's our update.
Thanks for that, Michael. Prairie fruit growers, Sam had just put in the chat that they just had their AGM last Saturday, and straws going on to most berries last week and this week, and planning and prepping for 2026. Manitoba Crop Alliance.
Good morning, Pam Drockney here.
Hi, Pam.
Hi. I was going to attach my report, but it's not letting me, so I will attach it and let it be circulated amongst the attendees.
Perfect.
Yeah, because I have a little bit here, but a lot of the details will be in the attachment that I'll circulate. But basically, we're really happy to have a full staff complement. We've introduced 2 team members to MCA. Svetlana Penner joined us as our member services and program administrator on October 1st. So she'll be working with, for those who are familiar with our staff, with Tammy Cote, with our levy administration, as well as our advanced payments program. And we also have Lauren Gislason, our new research manager for cereal crops. And she just started mid-October. So we're really glad to have those 2 aboard, and we're excited to have them join our team and provide support where we've been really kind of missing that over the last couple months. Really the biggest focus for us over the next couple of months is obviously our research, or our extension and our communications programming. Hopefully everybody who's a member of MCA has received their biannual newsletter, the Fence Post. And the publications theme this year was obviously celebrating our 5th anniversary, which is kind of amazing that we've already been operational for 5 years. So we really wanted to celebrate that and took a look back, as well as kind of looking towards the future as well. We're also working on the focal point right now as well, which is our research magazine that you'll see arriving in inboxes or mailboxes, hopefully in February. And then we'll have a bunch of upcoming events as well, and the list is long, so definitely you can visit our events page on our website. But we do have our Roots to Results webinar series that's coming up. The first one is next week on November 18th, and it's with Left Field Commodity Research, and it's Planning Without Prediction. And then we have one each month going into March of next year, so check that out. We also have our farmer grain grading boot camp that we're putting on in collaboration with the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers, as well as the Manitoba Canola Growers Association as well. And of course, there's 2 dates available. There's Carmen on November 25th and Souris on November 26th. And I think these will be really good programs with respect to a year that maybe there's some challenges with respect to grading, in terms of giving farmers some insights into the grain grading process, because there really was going to be like live grading demonstrations, so really hands-on. We also have our Leadership Insight program, which is a 2-day in-person training specifically designed for ag business leaders. That's being held in Gimli, so space is definitely limited, and we're encouraging everybody to register as soon as possible. And then the other one I'll highlight as well is the Combine to Customer. So this is a program that's put on by Cereals Canada every year. It's designed specifically for grain farmers, and it's a 3-day course that really provides that really great broad overview in terms of the grain industry operations. Once again, hands-on. Everybody that's ever attended has raved about it, and they come away with a really greater understanding and perspective of their role as farmers within a larger industry. So there's 2 dates available, February 1st to 4th, of course, is 2026, and then February 17th to 20th. So if you're interested, please reach out directly to Cereals Canada. And then maybe I'll just leave it at that. And of course, maybe one thing I will add though is we continue to see strong demand for the advanced payments program. We're actually one of the most competitive administrators of the program here in the province. And we have one of the best interest rates on the interest-bearing portion of the advance at prime minus 0.5%. So if anybody is interested in learning more, definitely feel free to visit our website or to call Tammy or Svetlana here in the office. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pam. And for sure, if you want to forward that, we can share that certainly with your report as well through the office. Manitoba Pulse Course. I think Daryl was on the call. Is there anyone?
Yep, here I am.
Great.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Okay, so on the Pulse side, of course, trade issues have been prevailing in the pea and lentil markets, with China heavily putting limits on exports of peas, and India on lentils. Now, of course, lentils are really not a crop that we grow. And with respect to peas, the impact on Manitoba growers is somewhat indirect, in that most of our peas do go to Roquette, and Saskatchewan and Alberta are the primary pea producers in Canada. Nevertheless, our national group Pulse Canada has been spending a lot of time putting out major fires on the trade front with China and India, and we'll see where all that ends up. With respect to dry beans, we've had an excellent year with yields, and we are the largest dry bean producer in Canada, and this year really cemented our position in that regard. Of course, with the large production, prices did go down, but we are, I think dry beans have kind of achieved some new fans in different parts of the province, and so we're seeing acres kind of stabilize in that 200,000, 180 to 200,000 acre range. And so our interest in developing dry beans is increasing correspondingly with investments in research and agronomic extension. On the soybean side, very good year on soybeans, perhaps setting a new record provincially for yields. And soybeans haven't been subject to the same trade headwinds that some other crops have been. And so we may have set a record yield wise, as I mentioned, and so we're looking forward to continued success in the soybean area. One of the things that we are focusing on, including participation in trade missions coming up in 2026, is to grow the food grade soybean market in Canada. There's usually a pretty decent premium to the grower in that market. Right now, we're quite a small producer compared to Ontario and Quebec, but we're focusing on that area. Which brings me to a comment. One of the things that we're really focusing on with our national groups, Soy Canada, Pulse Canada, and Grain Growers of Canada, is the evolving situation with respect to research capacity and commitment from the federal government, and just where exactly they see their efforts going in the future. As was alluded to by Neil and Colin earlier, the proposed decision from PMRA on dicamba use, over the top or post-emergent dicamba use, is a concern to us, and we have been in communication with KAP on that, as well as other stakeholders. I should mention the point made earlier about a data package being released. Typically, that's just released to registrants, not to anyone else, so that may not be available, but we are in communication with registrants such as Bayer, and they promise to update us as they analyze some of that data. We do have a new website up, and the latest edition of our Pulse Beat magazine. You can look for it in your mailboxes in December. I should mention that Patty Rothenberger is now on staff with Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers. She will be taking the reins in the executive director's chair starting January 1st. So she'll be the person likely attending the KAP AGM. I'll be taking steps towards retirement, I'll be with the organization going into the spring, but just kind of helping Patty transition. And with that, we have the usual slate of extension activities underway. And so check with our website or check with our extension folks, Terry Buss in the east and Wendy McDonald in the west, if you're interested in any event or if you have any question with respect to pulse production and soybean production and marketing. With that, Jill, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Daryl. And then lastly that I have on my list here, just from the attendees that I have, Manitoba Canola Growers. Was there anything from their association?
I don't think anybody else is here from Manitoba Canola Growers, so I can give a brief update.
Sure, go
So,
ahead, Chuck.
Yep. So starting off last week, Canadian Canola Council and the Canadian Canola Growers Association were in Ottawa, where we met with numerous MPs, senators, and deputy ministers. The main focus of our discussions dealt with the China trade situation. We're hopeful that something's going to happen since the Premier and the President of China met a couple of weeks ago, but so far there's been no real changes, but we continue to stress the need to deal with the tariff going into China. We also talked about the importance of the upcoming CUSMA review and the fact that we need to have tariff-free trade between Canada, US, and Mexico. And then finally, we also talked about the need for more work being done on the biofuels policies and regulations from the government, pardon me. Recently, there's a biodiesel plant opened up in Strathclair, Alberta, where when it's fully operational, it will start to use 2.3 million tons of canola seed for the production of biodiesel. So, you know, if we had a couple more plants like that, we wouldn't have to worry about China. From what I've heard from talking to producers around the province, canola yields were very good this year. Most people say average to well above average. So we're waiting to hear from Manitoba Crop Insurance, but we could be seeing a new record average yield for Manitoba this year. Last year it was 44 bushels an acre, I believe. So I think it's going to be quite a bit higher than that if all the talk holds true. Another point is Manitoba canola growers are holding their biannual elections. So there's 4 director positions up for to be reelected. If anybody's interested, I think nominations open on November 14th. Nomination forms can be found on the Manitoba Canola Growers website, and the election for directors will occur in December. So hopefully we'll have some participation in that. One other item of interest that might be to the people on the call here, the Bunge Viterra merger. Part of the conditions of that merger were that the sale of 4 Manitoba elevators had to occur. And I was reading in the paper yesterday that the sale has occurred. 1 elevator was purchased by Linear Grain, and 3 other elevators have been purchased by BP and Sons Grain. So we're hoping that will help continue to increase the competition for canola seed in Manitoba. As far as Manitoba canola growers themselves, we have a board meeting coming up next week, and we'll continue to deal with the issues that are out there. But I think that pretty much sums up my report.
Thanks, Chuck. So I will proceed on to the district reports. So I'll start with District 12. James, is there anything from your district to report on? Okay, District 10, Shannon Pizak.
Good morning. So snow melted the last couple of days. We didn't have much, just a skiff. but we can see our ground again, which is nice. And for the most part, I would venture to say all of our farmers have gotten their crop off. There's a few crops out there, but minimal. We didn't get as much rain as many other parts of Manitoba, and we really feel for you. We know what it's like to be trying to harvest in mud. So crops, I would say in our area, because of the drought that we experienced, we did not get much rain until August. So our crops would be averaging probably just below average. They were better than we expected, and some of them fared better than others. And that's it for my update.
Great. Thanks a lot, Shannon. I'm going to go down to Keith Slezak. Do you have anything from your district?
Yeah. Yeah, everything's pretty well harvested around there. There's a few fields still kicking around, but most is done. Quite a bit of fall fertilizer got on. Yeah, yields were decent, but downgraded because of excess moisture, lots of feed wheat and feed barley around, and canola was average to below average in our area. There were lots of disease for some reason. Other than that, everything is pretty well as normal.
Great. Thanks, Keith. I'll go to Chuck now for District 7.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Basically, as I said, I think that most of the crops in the District 6 area were average to above average. From what I'm seeing driving around the district, most of the field work, most of the harvest has been completed. There are a few bean fields and maybe the odd cornfield still sitting out there because of damp conditions, but a lot was taken off on the frost over the weekend. Maybe half the fields are worked, but a lot of fields are sitting unworked because of water standing on the ground, and just nobody wants to really go out there and make too big a mess. Though some double discs are going. Some fertilizer is being applied, but it is very limited acres of where the fertilizer is being applied. So I think that pretty much kind of sums it up. As I said, most of the farmers are seeing very good yields.
Great. And is there anything in addition to out in District 7 area? Tanner, I see Tanner Olmsted is on the call. Is there anything out in your area, Tanner?
Yeah, everything's pretty good out here. We're not wet at all, so yeah, harvest is wrapped up. Yields were fairly decent. I'd say the one thing that maybe depended would be the canola. Depending on planting date, there were some good fields of canola and not so much. Then yeah, most of the fertilizer is pretty well on now. I think most guys are shut down for the winter. Then I guess just to touch on KPPA, like the Keystone Potato Producers, we got roughly 30% cuts going into 2025 crop year. So that wasn't too good for our area in District 7, but the 25 potato crop looked above average, so that was good. And then we just a little worried about potato mop top virus. It's been lingering the last couple of years. And then yeah, other than that, there's lots of potatoes around. So, but that's about it.
Great. Thank you very much, Tanner. Jeneth, are you on the call from District 5, or is there someone from District 5?
I'm here, Joe, but I'll pass.
Okay, you don't have any comment? Okay. Hopefully we'll touch base tomorrow at the meeting. Okay, we'll go on to District 4. Kevin?
Hi. Yeah, sure. Hope you can all hear me now. Yeah, harvest has been a long grinding challenge here with rain starting in September and seemingly not letting go here. We're still we've managed to wrap up our corn. just yesterday, but still working on sunflowers and yeah, there's definitely neighbors out trying to finish up corn. There's still quite a few acres left in the southeast here. Maybe some tillage was done early on, and there's a few guys, working on frost right now. But yeah, that's about it. Hope for a good spring.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Colin Penner?
Yeah, I'll keep my video off. My internet's lagging here, but very similar to what I'm hearing with the other folks. We had a dry summer, but yields were excellent. For the most part, it kind of varied here and there, but it did quite well. But then, yeah, we got about 5-6 inches of rain in the growing season. And then since harvest now, we've seen anywhere from 15 to 25 inches of rain. So it's been pretty moist. Definitely quality of cereals has been impacted. With I know some oats that are basically being given away right now just because they're in such poor shape. A lot of soybeans came off this weekend. There's still a little bit out there. Saw lights last night still going. There's a little bit of corn, but and for the most part, fertilizer was non-existent in our neck of the woods. We managed to get a little bit on. The conditions weren't great. I'm fingers crossed, maybe I'll be able to get a little more fertilizer on if if we keep seeing another bump or two in the fertilizer deadline. But I took the cultivator out yesterday and it was still, the ground was too frozen, it was too slimy on top, so it's not working great.
Great. Thanks for that, Colin. Scott Melvin, District 2.
Yeah, we avoided most of the heavy rains that were east of us. So I think I'm not sure that I've heard too many comments that quality was an issue. I think quality's been pretty good and the yields are pretty good too. Soybeans are a bit hit and miss actually. So I'm surprised that the soybeans were record yields because we had some really good yields and really bad yields and they were side by side and kind of inexplicably. So tiny little bits of grain corn still out. But for the most part, everybody's wrapped up. And I think any fertilizer was going to go on has gone on. And there hasn't been too much problem with that. So that's it.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. And lastly, David Rourke, is there anything from your area as far as conditions or events that are happening out your way?
We had a good year. Moisture was a little lacking at the beginning of the season, but I think most of us are surprised at the yields that we got. Personally, ours is the highest yields we've ever had. So that was good, and fertilizer's gone on. There's a little bit of corn still out there, and maybe the odd field of edible beans, but for the most part, it's been a decent year.
Great, thanks for that update, David. So that kind of wraps up any of the across the province. Certainly, if there's something else that is missed, certainly you can leave that message with the either email myself or the office if there's anything that we've missed in the updates. We will now go into if there's entertaining any other business. I think we're right on time here, but I'll kind of open up the floor if there was anything else that needed to be addressed today. I want to give a shout out again to our board did meet last week, so we went over the budget for the next year and some of the planning going into the district annual general meetings, which are starting this week. So hopefully everyone has a time to attend your district meeting. And if there's any, we do have time right now. If there's any pressing issues in the district, feel free to contact the office to help if we need a speaker to come out to the districts just for that additional engagement at the district level. I see the list here of everyone that's on the call. Seeing I don't have any comments in the chat, I'll consider the meeting concluded and I'll ask for someone to adjourn the meeting. someone just wants to put up their hand in the chat or unmute yourself.
Mike Clark will adjourn.
Thank you, Mike. Seconder?
Les Ferris, District 2.
Thank you for that, Les. And seeing no objections to that, our advisory fall meeting is concluded, and I look forward to seeing everyone at the fall meetings up until Christmas. Thanks for attending, everyone, and we will see you shortly. Thanks. Bye-bye.